Welcome to the Exponential Edge podcast with your host, Arya Salur. I'm excited to have you join me on this journey, exploring the forefront of technological advancements and innovation that will shape our future. As a junior at Acton-Boxborough Regional High School in Massachusetts and the CEO of SecArmor, a cybersecurity startup, I'm fascinated by the transformative power of technology. In this podcast, we'll dive deep into 5 key areas that are poised for exponential growth in the next decade. We'll be exploring the realms of cybersecurity, generative AI, sustainability and climate tech, biotech and human longevity, as well as the reshoring of manufacturing. And we'll also go over rising startups disrupting the marketplace. These topics and businesses hold immense potential to revolutionize our world and redefine the way we live, work, and interact. Each episode will feature insightful conversations with experts, thought leaders, and visionaries who are at the forefront of these fields. In just 30 minutes, our goal is to provide you with 5 signature nuggets of wisdom from our guests. These key takeaways will empower you with knowledge and help you stay ahead in an ever-evolving technological landscape. Without further ado, let's introduce our guest for this week. Hi everyone, today's guest is Dan Herscovici, a partner at Edison Partners, which is a growth equity firm. Hi, Dan.
Hey, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Good.
Definitely. Great to have you. So, first off, I wanted to ask you, you went to BU for mechanical engineering in the 90s. And could you just give my listeners an overview of your career from then to now and possibly why you went into mechanical engineering? What caused you to go into that field?
Sure. It's interesting. I've had this conversation just recently. So, to tell the story fully, I have to start earlier in my life. So my dad is a shoemaker. He came to this country in the late 60s, drove a taxi, lived the American dream, used the money from driving a taxi to buy ownership in a shoe store. And then eventually ended up buying the whole shoe store. And I saw him as an entrepreneur, working hard to make ends meet and make a better life for his family. Inside the shoe store, what stood out to me, I always worked there as a kid. What stood out to me was, he used to always, tear apart the shoes and sort of custom make them for the customer. Even, things he ordered and came in, when the customer came in, he would fit it, he would modify it, he would change the color, he would change the cushioning, he would do whatever it took to kind of change that to fit and suit the customer. And I like you said, I grew up in the 80s. I went to school, in the 90s. And that was the start of the internet age, and technology was taking off. And sort of my version, I guess, of working with my hands and building and creating something, as my dad did, and I've always seen him do, was mechanical engineering. And that's kind of what inspired me to study mechanical engineering at school. I'd say, looking back, it's probably the best education, not from the sense of actually learning the trade of engineering and designing bridges or doing fluid dynamic analysis or analyzing stress in a building model, but it was really the art of problem solving and forcing you to think through problems and how to move forward and solve them, even ones that maybe you didn't quite comprehend at first. So that's kind of inspired me to study engineering at BU. It was a bit of a journey. But I was really lucky to get accepted into the program and move through it. And then once I graduated BU, I kind of struggled to figure out what I wanted to do next. And then was lucky enough to be offered an opportunity to continue my education at Drexel University in Philadelphia in mechanical engineering and actually manufacturing engineering. So my professor at the time, the professor that recruited me, or that sort of accepted me into his research lab, was creating a manufacturing engineering program at Drexel, and he was looking for students interested in manufacturing engineering to kind of build that curriculum. And that's what I had an opportunity to do down in Philadelphia at Drexel. And then that kind of propelled me into my first job on the factory floor, working in an injection molding facility, building latches. Working with, I was the only, engineer on the floor. Everybody else was kind of somebody with a couple, many with a couple year technical associate's degree, but more like 20 or 30 years working on a factory floor. And really taught me, the practical application versus the theoretical capability or the theoretical analysis. And so mission
you weren't designing it, you were actually on the floor.
Yeah, so I was like a process engineer. So my mission wasn't necessarily to design the parts, but it was to digitize and optimize the process by which these parts are made so that you can do things like make them very quickly, swap molds really quickly, improve the overall efficiency of the factory, reliability of the parts, accuracy of the parts, introduce the idea of preset programs for, all the variables that are so temperature, speed, et cetera, all pressure, all the things that are associated with manufacturing or making a plastic injection molding part. And historically, these guys, tuned it in like an art. I tried to bring science and engineering to the factory floor. From there, that experience, my experience, helping with the manufacturing engineering program at Drexel, combined with my experience in the factory floor at my first job at Southco, propelled me to a job at Bell Labs Lucent, where they were in their mobile phone division. So this is kind of early days of the cell phone. Think of it as like cell phone, I don't know, call it version 2.0, where we were building, some of the first phones with speaker phones and Bluetooth in it. It was early days of the cell phone, and Lucent was not only building a cell phone from scratch, but they were also building an automated manufacturing line in New Jersey. And so I had the opportunity to work with, a bunch of robots and placement machines, taking a cell phone from, circuit board design, placement, mechanical assembly, test, et cetera. And I was one of the automation engineers on the factory floor, making sure that worked, and did that for a couple of years. Our division inside Lucent caught the attention of Motorola, who ended up acquiring us out of, bought the division itself out of Lucent Bell Labs. And so, that's how I kind of ended up at Motorola. We were acquired, and spent the next 8 years of my life. I think when I joined or was acquired by Motorola, it was kind of the last time I was technically an engineer. I became a program manager, managing the schedule and managing the life cycle of a whole development process. Eventually became a product manager and a leader there. Went back and got my MBA at Penn. Motorola was generous. They had a program at the time where they would pay for you to go back and get your MBA. So I had the opportunity to do that.
I saw you went to Wharton, right?
Yeah, I was at UPenn
MBA
from 2000. Yeah. That was 2000.
So that was like an executive. That was like an executive MBA.
So it was, yes, but it was the full regular MBA. We just did it through different timings. So instead of the full-time students were there, Monday through Friday, had standard winter breaks and summer breaks. We were there Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and never got time off. So through the winter breaks and through the summer, we continued to take classes to catch up the time we missed during the regular year. And so when we graduated with the same class of 2023. And it was just a great experience. There was 100 of us in our program, all, a little bit on the older executive side like myself. But that was 2003. And then I spent the next 4 years managing a portfolio of handsets. That was when the RAZR launched at Verizon, which was just a great experience. Some amazing engineers at Motorola, mechanical and electrical engineers at Motorola, developing that product. I was a product manager in that world. and essentially was responsible for, all the features, all the customer requirements associated with a handset, the the managing that handset through its development life cycle, and then all the acceptance of that handset into the carrier. I can keep going. I left there in 2007 and joined Comcast as a head of product. So I was a product manager for all of the internet business at Comcast, and did that for a couple of years. And it was interesting. I took my learnings from the mobile world and the things I saw happening with wireless and applied it to broadband or home high-speed internet. Specifically, I identified Wi-Fi as a really, really important interface for the home. Not only did was I arguing that every mobile handset was going to have Wi-Fi embedded in it. Most laptops and computers were starting to come with Wi-Fi embedded or had Wi-Fi dongles. And so I pushed Comcast to launch the first integrated Wi-Fi modem to basically include Wi-Fi with every internet service that's subscribed. And then pushed for the launch of Xfinity Wi-Fi, which me and my team branded. We launched an outdoor Wi-Fi network. And so today there's millions and millions of Xfinity Wi-Fi hotspots that any customer can enjoy, and that was something I had the privilege of starting in 2007, 8, and 9. Following that, I became a bit of an entrepreneur inside Comcast. I founded a business called Signature Support, which was Comcast's, think of Comcast version of Geek Squad. So we had remote support, on-site support. We offered extended warranties for your electronics. Basically, we were your IT specialist that you could call from your home, helping you figure out how to use this new technology called Wi-Fi and helping you make sure your computer was operating smoothly. I led that as CEO for a couple of years. Ended up folding that business into the internet business unit, and then joined another business called Xfinity Home in its infant stages. So I was kind of a co-founder of that business, and ended up leading that as CEO for the next 5 years. That's where I met your dad, and from 2012-ish. Till early 2018, I was the CEO of Xfinity Home, which included home security, home automation, offering that solution to other cable companies so they could launch a security service. So that was a great experience. Left Comcast in early 2018 and had my sights set on joining another very large company. When I met the managing partner of Edison, Chris Sugden, who I had lunch with, let him know I left, and this is what I plan to do. And he, said, "Look, we're looking for people with your background. Would you be interested in investing in great entrepreneurs and help using your background to help them build great companies?" And it was just a really great opportunity that I jumped all over. And so in summer of 2018, I joined Edison Partners, and for the past 6 years, I've been investing in software and tech-enabled services companies across the country. It's been just a really great experience. So that's and then that brings me here today. So that's a bit of my career overall. Some twists and turns, but pretty lucky to have had the experiences I've had.
Mm-hmm. So, wow, you've been through an array of different technologies and businesses, and we'll get to the VC part of it later in the podcast. But first, I wanted to start out with your time at Motorola, and specifically your work with the RAZR, which I know at that time was a very iconic handheld before Nokia and then eventually the iPhone. So could you talk about your work with the RAZR and why you think it became so iconic for that generation?
It's So I think RAZR was a first of its kind in terms of form factor. So the flip phone was around for a while, but this idea of a fully metal design that was hyper thin, the keypad architecture, just no one ever had that sort of shape, size ever in their life. It just was a frankly a mechanical engineering work of art. On top of that, it was an electrical engineering, I don't know, just amazing design. The fact that they were able to pack that technology into such a small form factor. RAZR was originally launched in the GSM protocol, which is what AT&T was using at the time, and they were the first to launch the product exclusively. I got involved as a product manager when we were looking to bring RAZR to Verizon. The challenge there was Verizon used a different technology protocol called CDMA, which wasn't as efficient in terms of electrical design. It wasn't as mature. There wasn't a lot of consolidation of components, and so the RAZR to Verizon, the challenge there was how do you get a similar form factor to fit with the CDMA technology? So look, my role was. I don't want to take more credit than's due, because really this was, a mechanical and electrical engineering, just amazing accomplishment. And I got a front row seat to it. I'd say that, as a product manager, you focus on sort of the business aspect as well as features and functionality, customer needs, and ensuring that what the specs that the device is built to and the schedule that it's built on is followed. And you work with the engineering team to and sort of are the liaison between the engineering organization and the customer to make sure that expectation is set and the features and functionality are understood, test protocols, requirements, etc. And so I had a front row seat there. We also brought, believe it or not, after RAZR launched, the big innovation, which is funny now that you think back to it, is that we made a pink version, right? And that, just launching that color, grew sales by 10, 15, 20%. It was just sort of a great experience. So I was really lucky to work with some amazing engineers at Motorola and be a product manager, on that program. It was just a really amazing experience. And I think, at the time, the reason it succeeded is because, the metal and thin form factor had just never been seen or done before.
Yeah, and I know it's not just about functionality that you talked about. I interviewed a designer, Michael Bastian, earlier in my podcast, who made wearables. And for him, he also talked about how it was not just about the functionality, it was just about how they looked and made the person feel as well. And I wanted to ask you as well. I know Motorola.
The weight of that phone in your hand, and like the way it felt when you closed it, it felt like a high end handcrafted piece that was just really amazing. So you're right. You're 100% right.
Mm-hmm. And you guys also marketed with many celebrities at that time as well, right? I think one of the ambassadors was Bono, who at that time,
Yeah, we had a Red phone at the time. I don't know if you remember, the U2 was sponsoring the Red charity and made a red phone that he was pushing. I think I don't know that we were as success. I think there was a lot of celebrity cachet. I'm trying to remember. It's been so long. It's good memory, but
and it was also at the Oscars too, right? It was given.
We gave it away in a sort of gift bag and stuff like that. Yeah, it was. We tried to leverage kind of the original Beats strategy, right? If Beats by Dr. Dre, like they're Johnny. If you ever watch the Defiant Ones, it's just one of the best documentary I've ever seen. But it chronicles the life of Dr. Dre and Johnny Iovine. But in the later episodes, it talks about the birth of Beats and how Johnny Iovine kind of made Beats this iconic product by having celebrities and sports executives wearing them on the court and wearing them out. And I think we we were maybe the 1.0 version of that with RAZR at the time. You could probably argue that a bit.
Yep. And then talking about your product management role, and for our listeners who want to get into product management, do you think you can break down the steps as to what product management really involves? I know you talked about your role in marketing a little bit, and also I want to ask you if your distribution of the RAZR was direct to consumer or to just those um, providers like Verizon.
Yeah, so let me answer the second question first, because you have to remember the world was very different back then. In fact, Apple was the first mobile phone manufacturer that cracked the code on direct to consumer.
Okay.
They that was, whatever, that was like 2006, 2007. The RAZR and phones before that were primarily sold to the carriers first. And then the carriers decided, how to sell it to their customers. And phones were heavily subsidized. So it was rare. Nowadays paying $1,500 for a phone is commonplace. Back then it was unheard of. You were getting, the phone for free if you sign up for a 2-year contract. Like, subsidizing the hardware was what you did as a carrier back then. And so we sold our product through Verizon. Now, customers obviously had to demand it. Customers had to go into the store and request it. And so there's a lot of consumer marketing, consumer pull through, but it was always a push, pull, and marriage and negotiation with the carrier itself. So the carrier, for example, could decide to offer your product for $99 or could offer a promotion, sign up now and get it for free. And that drove an enormous amount of volume and sales of the product. So those decisions, you sometimes you co-promoted it, sometimes you gave them marketing dollars to drive down the price, but it was all, you're all reliant on the carrier to bring that product forward.
Yep.
It was an interesting time. It was really, I would say Apple broke through that, where, they started to sell direct and they made the carrier subsidy less important, mostly because since the carrier subsidized the product and you were so beholden to them, the carrier could dictate in a very, very strict way functionality, what the product did or didn't do, performance. That's all kind of somewhat dissipated nowadays. And there's still a little bit of that, but the power is mostly in the consumer, what the consumer demand appears to be.
Yeah.
Product management, so product managers are essentially, I think it's just the greatest career in the world to kind of work your way to be a product manager, whether it be for a product or a brand, because I think it's the sort of obvious path to becoming, if you have dreams of being a CEO or running a company, being a product manager is essentially being a CEO of a small part of a product or a brand. So if I was the product manager for, let's say, RAZR, I was kind of the CEO of the RAZR product within limits. But you have your foot in everything from all, software, hardware, electrical engineering, marketing and positioning, customer requirements. You are, you represent the voice of the customer to the marketing and engineering and development teams, and you represent the voice of the company, the technical voice of the company, into, your customer, which at that time was the carrier, Verizon. There's obviously a sales team that is, selling the product, and that's not necessarily your job, but you represent everything else, right? The fundamentals. It's your vision. If you believe that, that Bluetooth is a critical feature and has to be included or Wi-Fi is a critical feature and has to be fundamentally included in the handset. You're putting those requirements together and you're setting that requirement set to the engineering team to figure out how to do that. If you determine that the bill of materials cost needs to be a certain price point to hit certain margins, you're challenging the team and you're holding them accountable. So as the product manager and test protocols, performance, et cetera, you as the product manager are responsible to make sure your product meets those standards. And you have a lot of ability to bring your vision to bear. Now it's in collaboration and with in collaboration with the industrial design team and others that envision the product. But really, you are there as the voice of the customer, which is a powerful place to be when you're building, obviously consumer products. When you think of a brand manager, right, in a non-technical sense, think about the person that owns cornflakes, right? That is essentially a product manager inside the company. They are the CEO of that brand, of that product line, and they're looking to grow sales, develop new capabilities, new features, whatever the case may be. I think that you could become a product manager through several routes, meaning it's not necessarily, depending on the company, it's more often than not anchored in technology. So you have to speak the engineering language. You have to deeply understand. You don't necessarily need to be able to design the electrical circuit or, design the mechanical components or figure out how manufacturing processes might work. But you need to deeply understand the language of engineering, what is and is not capable, how to have a conversation and understand what each of these teams are telling you, understand timelines and how long things take and how much resources are required, so that you can guide and manage the program overall. So I think there's an advantage to having a technical background to start. But I've met really strong product managers that come up through marketing or finance, but they all have this technical mindset and have the ability to kind of have an intelligent conversation with the engineering team and challenge them on things. It takes you can understand what they're saying, but if the engineer, if she's not, if she's claiming that she can't do something, you need to have the ability to understand whether that is or isn't true and push them to be successful. So I would encourage anyone that has dreams of becoming an entrepreneur or being a leader inside a large global enterprise, for that matter, to kind of think about a path through program and product management, because to me that's the best training ground for that skill set.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And then transitioning into your Comcast days, you worked with Xfinity Home, like you talked about, and you were doing some really cool things with IoT. So could you talk about some of the coolest things that you worked on with the IoT aspect? And then could you talk about some of the gimmicks of IoT that you think? I know the two terms that a lot of people in the field use are painkillers and versus vitamins. So, do you think you could talk about what makes each one that term?
Yeah. So let's see. I don't know if I can talk directly to sort of the painkiller vitamin thing. So this is sort of addressing a pain point and solving a real problem for the customer versus a vitamin, which is sort of something you kind of have every day that keeps everything running and healthy. But let's see. So I had the once again, I feel like I was in the right place, right time. I had the opportunity to sort of ideate and join this new program inside Comcast. Right, we had a mission to go build $1 billion business. That was sort of the big goal. We saw home security as a disruptable business because of connected devices and the movement from an analog security system to a digital first security system, followed by other capabilities, cameras, door locks, doorbells, thermostats, etc. Look, I don't know that I could call out, quote unquote, the coolest thing I saw in IoT. We, because I'm thinking back towards, at the time, everything was cool. Like, imagine the first time you saw a thermostat that could be controlled remotely, or the first time you saw a door lock or or lighting control, or lights that can change colors or change their temperature, or just simply turn on and off. So
Yeah, but
the
at a
just the
certain point, it gets excessive, right?
yeah, I mean, it became, I would say that there was a people got enamored with the tech. Just because you can do something doesn't mean you should do something. Just because I could turn a light blue doesn't mean that the consumer's dying for the ability to open an app on their phone, push a button, and turn the lights in their room blue. Like, I don't know that, and then pay you $10 a month for that. Like, that doesn't make any sense. And so I think that the we got lost in what technology could give you, and forgot what we really needed to solve for the customer. And this is sort of your idea of pain points or painkillers versus vitamins. I think that I think about it in two big buckets. I've given this lecture before. In fact, I gave it, I think, back in 2016. And frankly, if I dusted it off, changed some of the terminology, I bet you I can give the same presentation today and it would still resonate. But basically, when you think about the services we offered, right, there are, in my mind, four key services you can offer a home. There is life safety. So that is like, call the police, call the fire department, call the ambulance. There's a problem, right? Somebody's breaking into my house. There's a fire in my house. I've fallen and I can't get up, right? So there's something that you need. So that is a life safety solution, and that's kind of where the home security product sits. There's an adjacent one called peace of mind, which is not necessarily life safety, but it's sort of, did I lock my door? Did my kids get home on time? Did the Amazon package move after it was delivered, or is it still sitting on my front porch? My garage door has been open for the past hour. A warning that the garage door remains open, or I forgot my lights on after I left the house. These are all things that are associated with peace of mind, not necessarily an emergency, but things that give me comfort to know that my son arrived home safely from school when I'm at work. So that peace of mind category doesn't necessarily need to be a home security system. It could be an intelligent set of sensors in the home that are aware of how the home operates. Third would be save me money, right? So this is like, control my temperature so I don't spend a lot of money on electrical for the HVAC, measure my water, measure the gas consumption. So these are there's like a little bit of energy management, but there's a lot of, or turn my lights off to not burn as much energy. There's a little like cost savings, climate aspect of it. And then the last I would put in a catch-all category that I call entertainment, right? So this is, whole home audio, lighting, mood lighting, control of the TV and the media experience in your home, that type of stuff. And those are kind of the four major experiences. And what's interesting is that doesn't necessarily mean different devices in your house. It just means that the platform that controls them needs to be aware of what you want. So, for example, take a light. The light in this room, for example. I have four overhead lights here. In security, I can program the lights so they follow a pattern that mimics somebody being home. So the lights turn on and off, so they give the appearance to the outside world that the home is not empty, it's occupied. That's safety and security. Peace of mind is, hey, I forgot all the lights on in the house and I want them turned off. So I maybe that's peace of mind. That also falls in the category of energy consumption. And then in entertainment, maybe I want the lights to be at 50% brightness, and I want the under cabinet lights to turn on, and I want some mood lighting. So the point is the same single device, depending on what it's being used for, can be enacted in a different way. Nobody really created that. That's what Xfinity Home was meant to do, that's what a platform has the power to do. If you bear with me, I'll give you another set of examples. The other things that we worked on that are less than this sort of different services is more about scenes, right? So there's 4 things that matter: good morning, good night, hello, and goodbye. So I wake up in the morning. What do I want my home to do? I go to bed at night. What do I want my home to do? Arm the system, close the light, lock the doors, etc. I leave for the day. What do I want it to do? Or I arrive home from the day. What do I want the home to do? That is like understanding sort of the how you want the system, the platform, the IoT portfolio of devices to work for you in your day-to-day living and make your life a bit easier. So it wasn't like look, the singular devices were really cool. I'd say that we worked on the first iteration of AI and machine learning with the cameras that we created in order to use the cameras for motion detection, so that we could make sure we understood humans versus pets and leaves and bugs versus rain. And we did we pulled a lot of data and insights to make sure our cameras were smart and intelligent and identified when it was worth tagging a threat or tagging a scene of interest. So there's a lot of really interesting technology, early days of things that we are very common today that we were able to participate in. But it was really this idea of a platform that connected all these disparate devices and took each of their capabilities, and when you put them together, they created experiences that were really powerful.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Thank you. And now I just want to look at a little broader scope of things. So,
Sure.
You work in growth equity, and so you're always looking at these new trends, trying to hop on the newest trends. So, talking about you've been in the workforce since around 2000, and you've been through many economic periods of uncertainty. So, 3, for example, are the dot-com bubble, 2008, obviously the financial crisis, and now COVID. We're coming to the end of a little period of economic uncertainty now. So, as someone in VC, what tech trends have transformed throughout these periods of economic uncertainty? And now, as we're coming to the end of this period, what do you think is going to grow in the future? What trends do you think we'll see exponential adoption?
It's interesting. If you think about sort of the transformation of the internet, is really something we primarily witnessed over the course of this time period, right? So you think about Web 1.0, 2.0, and 3.0, right? I think you've probably come across this in your talks or in your reading, right? Web 1.0.
It's been a huge focus.
Right. Definitely. Primarily about static content. 2.0 introduced dynamic and two-way interaction. And 3.0 is about publishing and making the web smarter and interactivity.
Yeah.
That transformation really is what took place, between the two, dot-com bubble and the real estate financial crisis. Obviously, AI and machine learning and all I think everyone, AI it feels like it appeared overnight, and the everyday consumer finally realized what the capabilities were, almost overnight. But the reality is it was, 20, 30 years in the making, with early versions of machine learning and other capabilities. And so those trends have always, that trend in itself has obviously, impressed me. I've always looked at investing in when I look at investing in these categories, a little bit off topic, but a little bit worth pursuing. I always tend to take a picks and shovels approach. And so, in the gold rush days, the people that were paying for gold weren't the people that made the money. The people that really made the money were the people that sold the picks and the shovels and the screens to actually enable everybody else to do so. And as this AI revolution, evolves and grows and accelerates, I think that those companies that are, enabling others to create models and use AI in new and interesting ways are the ones that will be wildly successful, and we'll see how that evolves. I don't know. I'm not sure if I exactly answered your question, but that's kind of how I saw it through these times. I think that some of the greatest companies ever were developed and launched during financial crises. I think that the world today needed a bit of a reset in terms of valuations and reality of what it takes to fund and build a business. I think that the reality of unit economics and profitability has sort of regained hold. Before that was just grow at all costs, and building a profitable business really wasn't the priority. Now I think that's come back again. And so I think these times of financial crisis actually force entrepreneurs and investors into a more of a reality check of how to build great companies.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And now talking about building a business, I saw one of your last LinkedIn posts that you were visiting Kelly and looking at one of their venture courses. So I wanted to ask you what catches your eye in a good pitch.
That's a great question. A little plug for Indiana and the Kelly School of Business here. It's just super impressive. They have a class that an entrepreneurship class. That's an optional class for seniors. It's the nickname of the class is called Spine Sweat because it's designed to kind of make the sweat go down your back as you're going through the class, give you the sense of what it's like to realize risk in an entrepreneurial venture. And so these students were challenged to develop a business and a business plan, do the research, do the work, essentially get it to a point where you're pitching to a seed stage venture capitalist. And us, the judges were giving them their grades. They had no exams, no grades given to them throughout the process. Lots of support, but no grades until the judges saw their final pitch. And we really ran them through the riot act and sort of asked them some really tough questions along the way, and just always very impressed with what the school does in the structure of this program, but also the quality of what these kids produce. You need to. So a deep understanding of the problem you're solving, a unique and innovative way. So understanding the pain point, in a unique and or at least a defensible way to solve that pain point. A proof that what you're solving is big enough to be a real business, right? It's big enough to matter. Yep. Demonstration that you as an entrepreneur have the credibility. You're the person to go solve this. You're the person that we should bet on. If you have the ability to do that, there's a real pain point. You can solve it uniquely. The market is big enough to matter, and you're the team that we should be betting on. And that includes you're the team we should bet on. It includes things like being humble, but also really understanding the problem set in a deep way, having financial acumen, et cetera. All the aspects that you'd look for in an entrepreneur. That's really, the teams that did that well, and that showed a passion for what they were building, really caught our eye. There was a couple really good ones that really that stood out, and they came from, there was one that was, reinventing the way podcasts were discovered. I guess discovery for podcasts, just younger podcasters like yourself, younger not in age, but in their sort of evolution and followership,
Yep.
struggle to kind of bubble up to the top. I think there's only, you know, 2,000 podcasts out there out of the million or so that actually get any listening. And
Mhm.
everyone struggles on how to gain attention. And this person took insights from TikTok and Instagram and Facebook and YouTube, and was creating a way to make audio discoverable, just like video is discoverable today. I don't want to give it away too much, but it was just a very well done pitch, identifying problem set, solution, why he's credible, why it's big enough to matter, why this is worth a lot of money. It was just a very well done. So that's kind of what catches my eye in a good pitch. But I'll say that the intangible is you're really looking for somebody that has this balance of being gutsy and confident and aware, but also humble and willing to listen and take feedback and pivot and learn from others' mistakes. I think that to me is super powerful.
Mhm. And I read another one of your posts, and you talked about one of the biggest parts of a good startup is their team, and that you were inspired by Angela Duckworth's book Grit, and I see Grit is behind you there
Yeah,
on the board.
right here. This is my office wall. This is sort of my grit, execute, and hustle. To me, are like some of the, bias towards action. There's just sort of fundamental qualities of a successful, not only forget about entrepreneur, just a successful person in life. Um, I think that one of you never, when I joined Edison Partners as an investor, the thing I found, the thing the most learning I've gained over the 6 years I've been doing this is getting a sense for how to assess a team before you write the check. You might only know them, you try to get to know them for at least a year before you really invest, having a couple, sometimes you have to get to know them over the course of a month or so, and it's only infrequent interactions.
A
I
year
think,
is a really long time, though.
yeah, I mean, it's not every day, obviously, but you try to find, when you're looking at companies to invest in, you try to meet these entrepreneurs early, well before they need your money, and you start to
Mhm.
establish a relationship with them. You meet
Yeah.
them 3, 4, 5, 6 times over the course of a year. You get to know them as people because you want to know what they're like under pressure, what they're like when they interact with their team. Do they, in the presentation, is the CEO answering every question? Are the team members talking over each other, or are they cleanly handing off questions to each other, and making way for everybody to speak? That, I mean, it sounds simple, but it's very telling in the room when you have 3 or 4 people nervous and presenting, how they answer questions and whether they give each other grace, or whether they understand who has the most knowledge to answer this question. And the courage to say, I don't know, or the courage to say that this is my weakness. These are all things that to me really matter. Or demonstrating, even making a mistake and having to pivot the company. Um, might sound like something you wouldn't want to share, but to me, that story demonstrates a lot of characteristics of grit, a lot of characteristics of listening, and understanding your customer in a really intimate way. And to me, those things are really, really important when betting on a team. You're about to, 5, 6, 7 years, you're going to be, depending on the stage you invest in, it could be longer, but you're going to be with these people for a long time as they build a business, and they're going to go through a lot of growing pains, and you want to make sure they have the sort of the foundational skills to do, though.
Mhm. Yep. And I wanted to ask you, hearing what you just said. So, do you think, could you kind of talk about your experiences maybe with a team that may have had two or three core members who might have been nervous, but really had a good idea and maybe a strong CEO versus a team with all experienced members with a little less strong idea? What would you rather invest in?
So so let me just restate it back to you. So there's two products out there. One is strong CEO, a product that seems to be really exciting or worthwhile or has potential, but the rest of the team is like kind of weak. Or a product that is unclear the potential, or maybe might not be as attractive or as big a market, but a super experienced team. So
I know it's kind of on the spot, but
if you ask
yeah.
10, huh? What did you say? What
I
did you
said
say?
I know it's kind of on the spot, so
Yeah, it's an interesting one, right? So because if you ask different, I bet you everyone's going to have an opinion depending
yeah.
on how they grew up. I'm a product person. That's who I am at my core. I fundamentally have to believe in the product and service that we're investing in. I have to believe that it's solving a real customer problem that is tangible in a way that either, reduces time, cost, efficiency in a 10x manner, has amazing unit economics, is really valuable. And so to me that is foundational. And so I would probably lean more towards that with a strong CEO and a team we have to build and grow and mentor and bring them along versus a super experienced group of people with a kind of a mediocre idea. Because I think even though they may have the experience to pivot and grow and maybe evolve that product into something great, I think that I don't know. I just believe that has higher risk. It's hard to create the product versus grow and find a great team as long as you go in there eyes open. The most important thing is to know what you're buying, right? What you're investing. If you go in there knowing where your weaknesses lie, I have to hire a really great CFO. These guys the CFO is weak, or they really are struggling with marketing and sales. We really need to sort of support them in that manner. To me, I'd rather invest there in a strong product and then sort of slowly build a team. Especially the failure would be if the CEO wasn't self-aware enough. As long as the CEO is bought in to what areas of weakness exist and where growth needs to happen, I think that's a shoe. And I'm a product guy, so to me, without a great product, there's nothing. That's where everything starts from.
Thank you. That's really valuable. I know I put you on the spot there,
No,
but
no worries. It's good. It was a good question. I like it.
yep. So, just wrapping up here, do you think you could share your five key insights or tips from our podcast today?
Wow. If for young entrepreneurs, maybe focus there. Look, I think that having I listened to a podcast today, and something that I'd recommend everybody, a topic that everybody listen to, and it's all about growth mindset, right? And so I think to me, you have to approach life with a growth mindset. That every challenge you face, every stress that you encounter, every challenge you overcome, is a way that makes you a better person, a better entrepreneur, a better leader, a better engineer. And so don't shy away from stressful situations. Tackle them head on. I think hustle and grit matter. I think working hard and pursuing a dream even in the face of adversity and tackling that head on, is the difference oftentimes between success and failure. And I think, fall down 3 times, get up 4 times type dynamic is just never give up. I think that's really critical.
Mm-hmm.
Be humble and don't be afraid to ask for help, or don't be afraid to say, I don't know. This is for, especially for people in their teens and 20s, even maybe early 30s. These 10 years in your life, you have the most ability to take on the most amount of risk. And I would encourage you to, however uncomfortable that may feel, to tackle that, to grab that with both hands. Me personally, I made a mistake there. I followed what I arguably would be a conservative path. I went to a big company. I worked, yes, I got a chance to work on a really great product, but I never really, I graduated in 1994 at the start of the internet age, right? If instead of staying and working at, in a manufacturing plant, I went west, and it was at the dawn of Silicon Valley in 1994 through 2000, it would have been a very different world. So I would say embrace risk. So those are sort of like the soft skills. I'd say that whether it's a major or a minor, as you pursue whatever you want to pursue in your career, whether it's finance and marketing and business, or whether it's something else, I would say getting an understanding of a technical background is quite important. So I would say, major or minor in something technical, or be curious and educate yourself. You don't even need to study it in college, but be curious and read about it. And having a technical background and being able to interact and understand foundations of technology. Not, even if you can't code yourself, which you should by default, but even if you can't, you should understand the fundamentals of coding, structure, and what the mindset is like for those that write code. And then the last thing I'd say is, for those that have dreams of becoming a VC or anything, an investor, go be an operator first. Spend the first 3, 5, 7 years of your life, when you have the ability to take on the most risk, either working for or starting a company, or working for a smaller company, or even working for a larger company. Go learn what it means to go build product. Go learn what it means to go market and sell product within a larger enterprise or within a small startup, before you have to analyze and evaluate others and whether or not you're writing a check for them. So for those that want to be an inventor, I would heavily encourage you to go be an operator first. So there's some random suggestions and recommendations. Hopefully you could distill that into something tangible.
Thank you for those. And thank you so much again for coming onto this podcast and joining us today. Thanks to our viewers for tuning into this episode of the Exponential Edge podcast. And tune in next week to see and hear about more trends, people, and ideas that will see exponential adoption in the future. Thanks, Dan.
Thank you, Ari. Take care.
Bye.